Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the June 4th MLB DraftKings lineup card. I hope you all shared in the success that I had last night. It was a fantastic evening. A lot of really good choices and advice that I gave you. A lot of really good calls. Quite a few bad ones as well. But it was a really good evening. Hope you all shared in that success. It is a pretty tough slate tonight. Only 4 games in the 7 o'clock window, so not a lot of options. We're really going to have to try to find some uniqueness if we're going to repeat our success from last night. But I want to hear about it. Let me know how you did. So let's get through this intro here. All statistics provided today and every day are from baseballreference.com. It is the best resource out there for anything baseball statistic related, historical seasons, player comparisons, ballpark stats, anything you can think of, it has it. Go check them out. It is well worth your investment. In the descriptions to the videos of all 3 streaming services, there are links to my social media. This is where I place my betting cards for the golf content that I create, and also the research that I do throughout the week for the golf and baseball content. So if you want to see some of that research, make sure to give me a follow at the links in the descriptions. And then finally, we are live. Chat's open. I'm hoping it's going to be a lot of interaction today. With only 4 games on the slate, it's shaping up to be a pretty short show. We'll have a lot of analytics to get into for those 4 games, but again, pretty short show. So I'm hoping there's a lot of interaction. I want to hear about last night. I want to hear about who you think you want to use tonight. Perhaps we can even build some lineups together to find out how we're going to construct our strategy tonight, especially with only 4 games. And one of them is a doubleheader, which the first game is being played right now. So jump in chat. Let's have some fun with today's show. Hopefully you all had some success. So let's cover the MLB DraftKings slate for June 4th. And the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to humble brag a little bit. And I'm going to show you the team that was my most successful. So let me switch the view here for you. And the text is kind of scrunched. It's just the camera settings that I have for particularly the golf content that I create. But you can see here I was really high on Garrett Cole. I know a lot of people were. He was almost 50% owned. I was really high on Shane Bieber as well. I had him in a few lineups, but this is the one that just happened to have the best output. I did have Cole and Bieber on a few teams, but the hitters didn't produce. But I was really high on Logan Gilbert as well against the Texas Rangers. That offense has been struggling. So Gilbert pitched pretty darn well. I don't think he got the win. No, he didn't. He went 7 innings. 6 innings, 7 strikeouts. So it was a good outing. Could have been a little bit better, but a little bit of luck, to be honest with you. I was really high on Kurt Suzuki, and in this particular lineup, I had Suzuki, realized that he was not in the starting lineup, and had to make a pretty quick change. Noticed Jose Trevino was roughly around his price. Plugged him in, and Trevino had a huge night. So it wasn't all just my analysis. There was a little bit of luck involved, and sometimes that's what it takes. But Trevino came through really big for me. Was really high on Yuli Gurriel, especially at the price savings that he was at $3,200. The wind was blowing out yesterday at Kauffman Stadium. Kauffman's generally a hitter's ballpark anyway, so I really liked the value that presented. At the end of the show, I mentioned Nick Maton and how he had only 1 game, but it was very successful the night before. The wind was blowing straight out to right at Citizens Bank. It was worth a gamble, a speculation at $2,500. You can see that really paid off. Bryce Harper really paid off. Schwarber paid off. I didn't use much of Schwarber, if any, but he really paid off as well. I was really high on that Phillies offense. All through the list, Eugenio Suarez, Bobby Witt Jr. in that same Astros-Kansas City game. I was really high on Bobby Witt, especially with the fact that the shortstop market was pretty shallow. Verdugo, Dozier. So anyway, that is the lineup that really did the best for me. As you can tell, almost 200 points. I got 6th in this pretty big GPP, and then in the top left, you can also see that I got another top 100 in that same contest. So this one was very profitable for me. But we're not here for last night. We're here tonight to see if we can repeat our success. So like I said, only 4 games on the slate, so we'll have to really focus and see what we can find as far as values today. So the first game that we go to is in the Windy City, where the Cardinals come into town to face the Cubs. So let me bring that up for you all. And I've got DraftKings up over here on the side in case some lineups come out. I highly doubt the Cardinals and Cubs will come out by the time the show ends, with them playing a doubleheader right now, the first game of the doubleheader right now. I did write down the lineups, which will explain the players that I've highlighted here. So in this game, you have the Cubs starter making his major league debut, the 5th ranked prospect in the Cubs system, Caleb Killian. They're really high on him, but this is a very, very tough spot for him to make his major league debut. The Cardinals, arguably the best offense in the National League. They've been hitting the cover off the ball, not least yesterday's game of 14-5 demolishing of the Cubs. Now, according to MLB.com, the wind is blowing straight in from left, so that could help in this situation. But I don't see this as a very good spot for Killian. But let's cover the Cardinals lineup mainly. And the 4 guys I've highlighted here are the ones that are not playing in the first game today. So Yadier Molina will more than likely catch, because Nisner is catching the first game. Albert Pujols is on the bench the first game. Sosa and Harrison Bader. Now, are these guys going to be worth playing? Probably not, but I am 100% sure that these guys will be in the lineup for the doubleheader. And the reason I've highlighted the guys that I have, because we don't know, we can take an educated guess, but we really don't know who's going to play both games of the doubleheader. So for each team here, I have highlighted the guys that are on the bench. I will never advocate using Jason Hayward, for example. Andrelton Simmons I've mentioned once or twice before, but not excited to use him. These are just the guys that I'm very confident are going to play in this game. As I mentioned with Killian, I don't think this is a good spot for him. I actually feel the opposite with Palante. Palante has been a long reliever for the Cardinals this year. He is a rookie, but he has thrown almost 25 innings. He has been hit a little bit, not a lot of strikeouts. So 18 strikeouts in those 25 innings, all in relief. This is his first major league start. But his ERA, you can see 1.07. He's been very, very effective as a long reliever. And at the minimum, I really like Palante tonight against a Cubs offense with the wind blowing in. They are generally a home run focused offense. I don't see that changing and being successful tonight with the wind blowing in unless the wind completely shifts. But again, I'm looking at the MLB.com weather reporter or wind direction or however you want to say it, and it says it's blowing straight in from left, so I don't see this being a very high scoring game tonight. So I really like Palante. The issue being how many innings is he going to go. If you get 3, maybe 4 innings out of him, I think that will be pretty darn good. With 8 teams, with only 4 games, 8 teams, the starting pitching market is very top heavy. very, very top heavy. So being able to find some value, especially at 4,000, which will allow you to load up on the premier players that are in the night slate, I think provides a lot of opportunity here. So I really like Palante. Killian wouldn't, I mean, again, I don't like the spot that he's in, but at 5,300 with the wind blowing in, the one saving grace he does have is that the Cardinals don't have a book on him. Don't know a lot of his pitches and whatnot. So, I can see that potentially playing well for Killian, but to me, it's just a pretty tough spot to make your debut. So I am going to take Palante in this scenario. I have no issue inserting him into quite a few lineups tonight. And again, the 4 hitters that I have highlighted here, I am not necessarily advocating to use them. In fact, probably 6 of the 8 I wouldn't use. I just know that they're playing. The thing about Palante so far is that he has a very, very heavy reverse platoon split. He is a right-handed pitcher, but right-handers against him are hitting very, very well. Something to the tune of 313, whereas lefties are hitting about 190 off of Palante. So any right-handed bat that you feel comfortable with on the Cubs, probably usable. Wilson Contreras kind of scares me only because he's catching this first game. Now, he could DH the second game, but I know PJ Higgins will catch the second game for the Cubs. So Wilson Contreras, especially at the price, a little gun shy, but Patrick Wisdom, Frank Schwindel, any of these right-handed bats that could be playing the second game, Christopher Morel, any right-handed bat for the Cubs on paper seems to be a good matchup with the reverse platoon split of Palante. And then for the Cardinals offense, I think Yadier Molina will be fine. He doesn't rely on power to get his points, so I think he'll be in a good spot against Killian. Let's see, Paul Goldschmidt, because Killian, as much as I have tried to research his 2022 minor league stats, I didn't see platoon splits. I just saw his performance, which he's pitched pretty well down in Iowa, but I haven't seen any lefty-righty splits or anything. But I think Yadier Molina could provide some value tonight at catcher. Depending on who plays, Arenado, Goldschmidt. Harrison Bader probably wouldn't be too bad either at 2,900, especially if he's leading off. Now, if he's hitting 8th or 9th, that really deflates his value. But the gist of this game is I don't really know, considering they have a doubleheader, that things could get thrown around quite a bit. So these are the 4 players on each team that are not playing in the first game. You would imagine that they are in the lineup for the second game. But I do like Palante. I think this might be an okay place for him. You're hoping to get 3 innings or 1 time through the lineup, get a couple of strikeouts, and I don't think this is a good spot for Killian. So that is the look of the game at Wrigley tonight. Again, this is the second game of a doubleheader. That first game is going on right now, so I doubt we'll get that lineup in by the time the show's over. We move to game 2 for a game that I was pretty darn right about, if I'm to be honest with you all. It's LA in Philadelphia to take on the Phillies. I mentioned yesterday that Chase Silseth really, really struggled against lefties, and you kind of saw that. Harper hit a homer, Schwarber, Nick Maton, who I mentioned. It was a big night for the Phillies. Now, the one thing I did get wrong in this game yesterday, was Zach Eflin. He's now had 2 straight starts that have been very, very good. I was pretty high on some of the Angels' offense as well, and Eflin just pitched a really good game. So the second game of this series features Michael Lorenzen facing Zach Wheeler in a very, very good pitching matchup. The wind is expected to blow in from left center. Now, with the wind blowing out to right last night in Philly, that obviously made a lot of the difference in who I liked last night. But with the wind blowing in from left center, and as you can see behind me, the way that Citizens Bank is laid out, that area is exposed. So that wind is going to play extra if you will. It has more of an effect when the wind blows in as it will when it blows out. So I don't see a whole lot of power output, especially from right-handers tonight. So the players that I've highlighted, let's cover the Angels first against Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler, 3-3, pretty darn good ERA, 3.16. He is the highest priced pitcher in the market tonight at 10,000 even. 58 strikeouts and 51 in the third inning, so quite a bit of strikeout upside here. The Angels hitters, not a lot have faced him. Trout has 3 plate appearances against Zach Wheeler, 2 walks. So I didn't highlight him, but it's Mike Trout. If you have the money, he's generally a pretty good play. But I did highlight Kurt Suzuki again. He had really good numbers against Zach Eflin from his time in Atlanta. He's also got decent numbers against Zach Wheeler from his time in Atlanta. Kurt Suzuki against Zach Wheeler in his career, 4 for 15 with a double. Doesn't sound like a lot, but in a starved position and an extra scarce position today, take a look at Kurt Suzuki if he's in the lineup. He's averaged a little bit more than 1 point per plate appearance against Zach Wheeler, so it could be a lot worse. Now Suzuki is having a pretty bad year, hitting sub 200, but again, the catching market is really scarce and it's generally offensive challenged anyway. So the other players that I've highlighted here were the same ones that I highlighted last night. Left-handed slugging players for the Angels. The only reason being, since the wind's blowing straight in from left center, I didn't highlight any right-handers. So Ohtani, Walsh. If you're looking for some price savings, maybe Tyler Wade, Brandon Marsh. I'm not in love with these plays, and honestly, I don't like a lot of Ohtani and Walsh either. I'm pretty high on Zach Wheeler tonight. I imagine he'll be widely owned. But the real interesting part of this game for me is Michael Lorenzen. I think Lorenzen provides a whole lot of value tonight in a pitching market that seems to be 2 players really. So Michael Lorenzen, you see there, 8,000 even, so he's not going to break the bank on you. 5-2, has pitched very, very well. Now the issue is he's only got 31 strikeouts in 48 innings. You are banking on him getting through the lineup twice, maybe even going through 6 and a third, 7 innings or so. But typically a ground ball pitcher, especially with the wind blowing in, seems like a fairly decent matchup for him. And some of the Philly hitters don't have a lot of success when Lorenzen was in Cincinnati as a reliever. Now, the one player that really has a lot of success is Kyle Schwarber, his time with the Cubs against Lorenzen in Cincinnati. Kyle Schwarber, 7 for 20 in his career. That's a .350 batting average, a double and 2 homers. He's averaging 1.8 points per plate appearance against Michael Lorenzen. Kyle Schwarber is a pretty darn good play tonight. If you're not using Lorenzen, Kyle Schwarber's probably a lock. But I'm going to use quite a bit of Lorenzen, trying to find some uniqueness there, trying to squeeze out some value there. So a lock for me is in this game. If you're not going to use Lorenzen, I would lock Kyle Schwarber. But Lorenzen's pretty close to a lock in a lot of my lineups. Again, trying to beat the expected high ownership of Zach Wheeler and another pitcher we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So a lot to like in this game, depending on what angle you want to use. I highlighted Kyle Schwarber. Obviously, I highlighted Bryce Harper, left-handed slugging, and then Nick Maton again, 2,800, second base and shortstop eligible. He's only had 2 games, but they've been very, very, very good. He is hitting 500. He's drawn a walk. He's got a triple and a homer. I'm going to ride the hot hand. It's only 2 games, but I'm going to ride the hot hand. Insert him into a few lineups as well. So that is a look at the game in Philadelphia. We move to game 3 of 4. We are back in Coors for Atlanta and Colorado, and this is a game I'm trying to attack very much so from one side. You can see all the hitters that I have highlighted for Atlanta. So let's cover them against Kyle Freeland. Kyle Freeland, not a bad season, I would say. 4.78 ERA, but 1-5, 42 strikeouts in 53 innings. He's only averaging 9.9 points per start. I tried to pick on him a little while back with Arizona. That was a mistake considering how really putrid the Arizona offense is. Atlanta's offense is not Arizona. It's quite more capable. So let's go through some of these numbers in their career against Kyle Freeland. Now, William Contreras has not faced Kyle Freeland. This is a play on regular baseball, if you will, right-handed slugger in Coors Field against a lefty that does not induce a lot of strikeouts. Contreras on the season is hitting .302, 7 homers. You can see the price. You can understand the price. I'm going to use Contreras tonight in as many stacks of Braves as I can. Ozzie Albies against Kyle Freeland in his career, 5 for 15, 2 doubles and a triple. So that's 1.6 points per plate appearance for Ozzie Albies in his career against Kyle Freeland. And Albies on the season only hitting .250. The power output is not quite there with only 6 homers, but he has the propensity to steal a base. He's averaging 1.6 points per plate appearance on the season. So in again, with a very shallow, 8, 9, maybe 10 players that are second base eligible by the time starting lineups come out, Ozzie Albies is a pretty darn good choice. But my lock of the day today, no matter what lineup I'm using, is Dansby Swanson. Swanson recently promoted to second in the Atlanta offense, and Swanson's really picked up his season. He's up to .280, 17 extra base hits, 6 of those being homers. He's tied with Ronald Acuna Jr. for the team lead in steals with 9. He's cut his strikeout rate down quite a bit. Dansby Swanson's having a very good season as it is, and I would highlight him on that fact alone. And then you look at the numbers against Kyle Freeland, 7 for 12, hitting .583 in his career against Kyle Freeland with a double, a triple, and a homer. So he is averaging almost 3 points per plate appearance in his career against Kyle Freeland. I love Dansby Swanson tonight, especially if he's hitting second in the lineup. He is my lock for the day. Love Dansby Swanson, and you can see I'm trying to stack as many Braves as I can. And then the last 2 players for the Braves, Ronald Acuna Jr., probably no explanation needed, but his numbers in a small sample size are very good against Kyle Freeland, 3 for 4 with a homer, a walk, and his season hitting .300, 1.8 points per plate appearance. I really like Ronald Acuna Jr. tonight, and because I'm trying to stack Braves, there is a very, very cheap option that is not guaranteed to be in the lineup, but I'm pretty confident will be. He is a platoon bat. It's Guillermo Heredia for the Braves, a right-handed slugging outfielder that generally only plays against lefties. But Heredia in his career against Kyle Freeland, 3 for 6 with a homer and a walk. Now he's only hitting .125 on the year. Again, majority of the time only facing left-handers or giving an outfielder a day off. So he has been struggling, but the power numbers are there. He has 5 extra base hits in 52 plate appearances. He just doesn't have much of a batting average. He only has 6 hits on the year, but 5 of them are for extra bases. So you really like that capability. And at 2,300, I really think he provides a lot of upside. So I'm going to use as many Braves stacks as I can. A lot of it focused around Heredia, trying to be the price-saving option here and go Swanson, Contreras, Swanson, Acuna, Swanson, Albies, Contreras. However I can fit 3 to 4 Braves, I'm going to do it tonight. And then on the other side, you have Spencer Strider, who is primarily a relief to long relief pitcher for Atlanta. He is making his second start. The first one did not go well. I believe he gave up 6 hits, 5 runs in 4 innings. Now, DraftKings doesn't list him as an opener, but I would treat him as such. I highly doubt he goes more than 3 or 4 innings. Especially with the potency of Colorado's lineup and playing in Coors Field. So Strider is not somebody I would advocate going to. It could pay off, but I am not confident in that. And of course, being a reliever, and he's never faced Colorado, so there's no experience here. So I've highlighted mostly left-handed hitters for the Rockies. Now, Strider does not have a big platoon split. Actually, right-handers are hitting slightly better than left-handers, but both righties and lefties against Spencer Strider are hitting sub 200. So I've highlighted Brian Serven, another option at catcher. If I'm going to go this high in the catching market, I'm going to use William Contreras. But Serven is an option. He has been hitting pretty darn well this year. Serven is at 276, 2 homers. Both of those came in 1 game, but a decent hitting catcher if you want to go that route. Ryan McMahon, left-handed hitting third baseman for Colorado, having a decent season as well. 240, 17 extra base hits, in a third base market that's really not a lot there. I mean, Austin Riley in this same game has never faced Kyle Freeland, so you would think it would be a good matchup, but I didn't list him for that fact. Let's see, in the Cubs and Cardinals game, if Arenado plays, sure. Wisdom, I don't know if he will play both games. So yeah, there's just not a lot at third base. So Ryan McMahon, a decent option here. And then I highlighted Daza, especially if he's hitting second in the order for Colorado. Daza's hitting 350. He had no homers, 4 doubles and a triple, so it's pretty empty 350, but 350 is still 350. Getting on base more than 40% of the time, Daza presents a lot of potential, especially if he's hitting high in the lineup. Second, I don't think he will lead off. Sometimes he's been about 5th or 6th. If he's lower than 6th, I don't think I'd have much interest, but it's hitting second in the lineup. I would have quite a bit of interest, so pay attention to the lineups when they come out. Daza could be interesting. So there is a look at the game in Coors. We go to the final game of the evening slate, the 7 o'clock window, as they say. It is in Dodger Stadium where the Mets take on the Dodgers. Pretty good pitching matchup last night. Bassett did not fare as well as I thought, and Tyler Anderson threw quite a gem. So the Dodgers came out with the win in the first game of the series in what very well could be a preview of a playoff matchup. Tonight, a decent pitching matchup, but seemingly one-sided. You can see for the Dodgers, it's Walker Buehler. Even though he is cheaper than Zach Wheeler, he is probably the best option on the starting pitching market, or in the starting pitching market today. I imagine he'll be close to 70% owned. It's Walker Buehler, 6-1. Now he has been hit around a little bit this year. 3.2 ERA. He's given up 58 hits in 59 innings. The strikeouts have been a little bit lower, 49 in those 58 innings or 59 innings. So not quite Walker Buehler-like, but not a lot of great numbers against him for the Mets. The one player that has a lot of success is the polar bear, Pete Alonso. 4 for 12 in his career with 3 homers against Walker Buehler. So if you're not going to use Walker Buehler, just like we talked about Michael Lorenzen and Kyle Schwarber, whoever you're not using, use the other. Kind of the same here. If you're not going to use Walker Buehler, I highly suggest you use Pete Alonso, and vice versa. If you're not going to use Alonso, use Walker Buehler. But Alonso has hit really, really darn well against Buehler in his career. But other players here for the Mets, you got Brandon Nimmo, 2 for 9. One of those hits was a triple. Lindor has never faced Buehler. I've listed those two just due to the shallowness of the player pool. That's what happens when you have a 4-game slate. And then Patrick Mazeika, I think is how you say it, Mazeika. Just the simple fact that he's a left-handed hitting catcher. 1 for 3 in his career against Buehler. It's just an option. A cheap one. It's just an option. A left-handed hitting catcher against Walker Buehler. For example, Eduardo Escobar, want no part of. 2 for 23, 13 strikeouts in his career against Walker Buehler. Starling Marte, 1 for 4. Jeff McNeil, 0 for 8. Just Buehler has pitched very, very well against the Mets, with the exception of Pete Alonso. And then on the other side, David Peterson throwing for the Mets against this really, really loaded Dodgers lineup. Peterson's pitched really darn well this year. 2-0, 3.03 ERA. Not a lot of strikeouts, so that's what's limiting his upside. He has been getting hit around a little bit, a whip of 1.3. And then there are 2 players that have had any kind of exposure at all or any kind of plate appearance and experience against Peterson. It's Trey Turner from his time in Washington and Freddie Freeman, his time in Atlanta. So let's talk about those 2 players real quick. Trey Turner, 2 for 8 with a double in his career against David Peterson, and then Freddie Freeman, 3 for 10, all singles. So Peterson's pitched well against those 2, or well enough. I've highlighted those 2 players, and then Mookie Betts, the leadoff hitter for the Dodgers. What's there to say? The highest priced hitter on the board. Well worth it, having just a fantastic season, hitting .308, 16 homers, 6 steals. It's Mookie Betts. If you have the money for him, he's going to be a good play. So not a lot here in terms of analytics for the Dodgers. It's more of a gut call with Mookie and then the 2 players that do have some experience. So again, rather short show. We're only at a half an hour, but we've already covered the 4 games. So we're going to come back here. I doubt any of the lineups are out, but I'll give it a quick look. I know for a fact that St. Louis and Chicago's is not out. That game is still going on. The Angels and Phillies. Hey, the Phillies lineup is out. So let's take you to Citizens Bank for the Angels and Phillies. So for the Phillies, Kyle Schwarber leads off. That really helps his value. So again, I like Lorenzen in this game, but if you're not going to use Michael Lorenzen, Kyle Schwarber probably needs to be a lock. So Schwarber leads off. Bryce Harper is hitting 3rd, and Nick Maton is not playing. Bryson Stott is getting the start tonight at 2nd, it looks like, and Camargo probably playing short. So Maton is not in the lineup. So that is the case, or that's the lineup for Philadelphia. Atlanta and Colorado is not out. And the Mets and the Dodgers lineups are not out. So that will do it for the slate for June 4th. Again, only 4 games. But in the comments, let me know how you do tonight, or how you did last night in the full Friday night slate with the 12 games. I really hope you shared in the success that I did.